Have you tried using the ZModeler tool in the ZBrush for iPad version and felt a little bit confused? You're not alone. It could be actually confusing at first, but in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take a simple cube and turn it into something practical like this tactical pouch. I'll give you a breakdown step by step of each tool and technique that I use so that you can fully understand ZModeler and start building your own hard surface assets without any frustration. So let's go ahead and make this process simple and actually fun. Hey, if you're new around here, my name is Pablo. I'm a 3D concept artist and educator, and I help artists level up their skills in the world of 3D, all in a way that is fun, clear, and actually doable. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the ZModeler in the ZBrush for iPad tool. So you notice that I have this camera here because I'm actually pointing at the iPad, but I'm also going to record directly from the iPad screen. So I'm going to switch between those two so that you can see the tools that I use, how I'm applying them, and essentially how I build this tactical pouch. So let me just show you how that would look like. So this is the iPad. This is the pouch that we're going to be doing, and I'll build this entirely in the iPad. So I'm going to show you all the steps that I took, but I'm also going to be able to show you the full screen. So this is the same thing, and I have these sort of like touch indicators just to show you how that works. So I'm going to try to switch between the two so that it makes it easy to understand, but I'm also going to show you kind of like the reference that I'm using within ZBrush. So I built it in ZBrush as well, in the ZBrush for desktop, so that you can see that basically the same level of detail and the same level of professionalism, you can achieve it both in the ZBrush for iPad and ZBrush from desktop, to this degree. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, so first things first, this is the one that I did in the ZBrush for desktop. So this is ZBrush 2026. Again, it is a very, very simple geometry. I'm actually going to go to the lowest subdivision level, and I'm going to show you without, I do have some texture as well. Let's turn that off. Just want to show you that this is a very simple geometry. All of this has been done with the ZModeler and a couple of extra tools like the move brush and maybe smooth brushes, that sort of thing. But the basics are the same for both ZBrush for desktop and ZBrush for iPad. So now let's go ahead and switch to the iPad one, and you'll see it's the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this icon right here to bring in all my palettes. I can go to the tool palette, and then I'm going to go to geometry. Let's move that out of the way as well. And I'm going to show you that I have essentially the same thing in the iPad and on the desktop. So I have the 5 subdivision levels. I'm going to reduce that to 1. And I'm also going to turn on polyframe with this one right here. And in this case, I actually have all the polygroups that I use compared to the ones on the ZBrush for desktop, but it's essentially the same thing. And, I already have the subdivision applied, and you can obviously start detailing. So I'm going to start from scratch and show you how this is built. The only thing to keep in mind, just so that I am completely transparent, is that the buckle itself is something that I already had built previously in the ZBrush for desktop, and I just imported it as a brush, which I'm going to also share with you so that you can use it the same. And then I just imported in here and combine it. But the bulk of it is very, very much the same. And the whole purpose of this video is essentially to show you how to use the ZModeler in the iPad. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to this mode so that you can see roughly what I'm going to be doing, because there are a couple of things in terms of the UI that I think is important to mention. So this is the latest version of ZBrush. I think this is 2026 as well for the iPad. It's basically the same thing that I have on the desktop. Now, in this version, it allows you to customize the UI a little bit more. So one of the things that I really appreciate is that this bar, you can put it at the top. So all you need to do is click and hold, or tap and hold, and then just push it up. So I'm going to tap and hold, and I'm going to move that up. There we go. So now my brushes are here at the top, and I can just move them to my custom bar and all of that. Now, the other thing that I like to do, and this is purely so that you can see things a bit better, I usually work with this manipulator at this size. You can tap and hold in the center, and then with the other finger, you can drag to increase or decrease the size, and you can also rotate around. So you can hold, rotate around, and just position this in the preferred way. I'm kind of like used to work like this so that I can select this right-hand side to bring in my custom menu. I'll show you exactly the same thing in ZBrush in just a second. The mask, the shift, and the alt key, so all of them are in here. And then I usually put this here around the top, so it's just a little bit more comfortable to work. So just a couple of things to do with the UI. The rest, I'm not going to touch much. If you're interested in knowing how I created this custom bar and also how I added all these menus, I have a video series dedicated to this, kind of like when the iPad or the ZBrush for iPad came out, but it is exactly the same thing. And just very briefly, you can click on this icon right here, and then you can go to quick menu and select any menu or any tool that you want and just drag and drop it into these menus. And that's how you build your quick menu. that's pretty much it. So now let's go ahead and start with a clean slate. So I'm gonna go to my home here, and I'm not gonna save this project. I already saved it. And I'm gonna click on new sculpt here, and I'm gonna choose anything. It doesn't really matter. Let's go for the sphere. All right, so now we have a simple geometry to start with. So the first thing I wanna do is convert this into a quick cube. So I'm gonna click on this icon right here, go to the bottom palette here where it says initialize. And by the way, if you don't see this initialize, that means that you chose a primitive, meaning that in this tool here, you had something like this cube, right? And if you have a primitive, you have the initialize tab, you have it, but you have a bunch of things that you can do with it, like initialize this at this size or changing the side counts, all of this stuff. That is because this is a primitive, meaning it's an object that it is driven by a function or a mathematical equation. So I don't wanna deal with this right now. I'm gonna go back to my sphere 3D, which is, sorry, this one, Polysphere 3D. I'm gonna go to initialize. And when you have a polymesh, these are the settings that you're gonna see. So let me just switch back to something a bit easier to see. And yeah, you'll see these ones right here. So I'm gonna click on Q-Cube. So that is going to create a very simple cube that is gonna be the base for our pouch. So let's collapse this now. And I'm also gonna change the material so that you can see things better. So I'm gonna press the material here on the left-hand side and choose the skin shade 4. There we go. And also on the right-hand side, I'm gonna leave the symmetry on. So that is this one right here. I'm also gonna turn off perspective just because it might be easier to work in this sort of orthographic view. And also I'm going to turn off the floor just because it is a little bit distracting in this case. And so now that we have the cube, I'm gonna bring in the gizmo, which is this one right here. And the gizmo allows you to adjust things very briefly. So I'm gonna use the Y channel to push that up. And this is gonna give it the base volume, if you will. So I think something like that. I mean, you can make it more like a wider pouch. It's totally up to you. This is kind of like blocking out the initial shape, and you can push it more on the Z axis as well. All right, perfect. So that is the initial shape. That's the first step. The second step is to duplicate it. So I'm gonna go to the dots here in the tool palette. I'm gonna click on duplicate. So we have two of exactly the same. I'm gonna turn off the visibility of the first one. That's it. And tap here to hide this. And now we can go ahead and start playing with the ZModeler. So the first thing I wanna do is click on the brush here. And I wanna search, let's actually go down to, on the left-hand side, let's go to topology. And we have the ZModeler here. So I'm gonna tap on this one. And this is usually when, when people get a little bit frustrated or they don't really know what to do. But let me also switch here so that hopefully you can see a little bit better. So this menu right here, you can put it anywhere just by clicking on these dots here at the top. And what I wanna do is I wanna delete some of these polygons. So I wanna delete the ones here at the top, the ones here at the bottom. And yeah, I think these ones will be the main ones that I'm going to delete. So you can use the selection brushes and all of that. But the whole point of this tutorial is to show you, demystifying a little bit of how the ZModeler works. So once you know what you wanna do, it's very easy to tell ZBrush, follow along with what I wanna do. So just what I told you, I wanna remove some of these polygons, so I wanna delete them. So I'm gonna click on this icon here. So this first one, and let's actually switch back in here for a second. So the first one, this icon right here is the faces. The second one are the edges, and the third one are the points. So if I click on this one, I'm gonna get a slightly different menu for anything to do with a polygon than if I click on the points. So we have three different menus depending on what element of the model we choose. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this face here, and I'm gonna find what my basic action is. So you see here at the top, it says polygon action. So that's what I wanna choose first. In this case, it's going to be delete. So let's go ahead and choose delete from the model section. So I'm gonna click on delete. And these are actions that have to do with how you wanna manipulate the actual model. So I'm gonna click on delete. And then you need to decide what the target is. So the target in this case, by default, is set to a single poly. So I'm gonna click here again. And if I tap once, then it just deletes this poly, right? It does it in both polygons because we have symmetry enabled. Let me undo that. By the way, if I tap if I tap once with 2 fingers on the iPad, it's going to undo. 3 taps is going to redo. So I'm gonna turn off symmetry just to show you that I can target a single polygon. Let's undo that. Let's keep the symmetry on. And I can just go ahead and keep tapping and delete it and so on and so forth. But the easiest way, if you wanna do multiple things, is to hold the Alt key and tag these polygons. So this is gonna give it a temporary polygroup or a selection. And you see in here, we have a selection of 4. So let me just make sure that you're getting this right. So this section right here, hopefully you can see that. and it is zooming in. So it has a little 4 around it that is telling me that I have selected 4 polygons. And I'm gonna rotate around and do the same thing here. So hold the Alt key, tab, tab. So I've basically created 8 polygons or tag 8 polygons with whatever action I wanna do. So now I can click once and I delete them all at once. Now it looked like it deleted more. That is the next thing I wanna show you, that when you're working with this type of polygons that you're deleting things and it becomes a single-sided mesh, you might wanna see inside the mesh itself. So let's switch back in here. I'm gonna tap on the tool palette or in the, sorry, the palettes in here. I'm gonna scroll all the way down to where it says display properties, and I'm gonna click on double. So double allows you to see the inside and the outside of the model. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and do a quick recap with the other piece. So let's bring in the first thing that we did and hide the second one. So the first cube. And I'm gonna do something kind of like the opposite of what I did for the first one. So I'm gonna tag, holding the Alt key again, tag these polygons. I'm gonna delete those ones and these ones in here. Oops, let's undo that. There we go. So tap once because again, it remembers the action. We have the delete action selected, so it's gonna be the same. And we're gonna make sure that we also turn on double. Now, because this is an action that I do constantly when I'm doing this type of stuff, this is something that I've added in my quick menu. So let me bring that in. So in my quick menu, if I go all the way to the bottom of the last menu that I created, I have this double. So I can toggle this on and off. Just letting you know that this is one of the reasons I have a custom menu. Great. So now if I bring in both of them, we have this bit right here, which is essentially, let me also switch back in here. This is going to be a fun way of editing this tutorial after. But yeah, so we have this bit that is going to be essentially the lid of the pouch. So it's going to open up like so. And then if I hold the Alt key and tap on this one, this is going to be the inside of the pouch, right? So we're going to do a couple of things just to make this a bit more obvious. And I'm also going to introduce you to the dynamic subdivision, which is basically the most important thing when you're doing, let's say, low poly model, so that you know how things are going to be subdivided when you actually apply the subdivision. So let's go into solo mode. I'm going to tap with 4 fingers, and that is my way to create the solo mode, basically. If you don't know how to customize that, you can click on the gear icon here, and then you can go to the input all the way down to the bottom, and it says 4 fingers tab. So you can choose, and anything that you feel like the 4 solo touch should do, that's up to you. I prefer it to be solo so that when I'm working like this, I can tap with 4 fingers and then just access my solo mode. That's it. All right. Aside from that, the rest it should be the same. I'm just kind of like showing you what are the custom bits. So for the next step, I'm going to show you the menu that has to do with the edges. So I'm going to tap on the edge. You'll see it's slightly different. I'm going to find the extrude, which is this one right here. So we now have selected extrude, and I'm going to leave it as edge/edge loop. This is going to allow me to control either one single edge or the entire edge loop, which is pretty fun. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate things around. And what I want to create is kind of like a lip that sticks out on the back. And this is generally how these pouches are manufactured, so that they can stitch things out or stitch into the next piece. It'll make more sense in just a second. So I'm going to click on the edge, and you'll see that now I'm extruding a single edge. Now the key here is that I can press the shift key. So I'm going to tap on the shift. Let me actually switch. I haven't let go of the click. If I press this one, it's going to snap it to the axis. If I snap it again, it's going to, sorry, if I click on shift again, it's going to snap it to a different angle, right? So this is roughly what I want. I'm going to do shift, shift again, shift until I get the angle that I want. Now, if I press the Alt key, it's going to do it in the entirety of that edge loop. So hopefully you can see. So I'm going to use this, and I think that is pretty decent. We'll just adjust the thing here at the top in just a second. But this is essentially what I want to do. So with the edge, let me actually repeat it so that it is clear. And I'm going to do it this time from a different angle. This is going to be a lot of fun. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe from this angle, I'm going to click, and I already have the same settings. So if I press once on the Alt, it's going to switch between single edge or the entire edge loop. And to make sure that it is aligned 90 degrees from this angle, I'm pressing shift. So shift is going to change that snapping. So now this is kind of like a free move. Shift again is snapping to the Z axis in this case. Tap again, and now it is kind of like what I want. So I'm going to do something roughly there. Perfect. And if I rotate around and I hold the shift key, it snaps to the camera angle. So you see that the edges here at the top, yeah, I cannot show you this, but the edges here at the top are basically not in line. So a simple thing we can do is hold the control key and drag to mask these points, hold control and click once outside the canvas, or in the canvas, sorry. Let me just do this from the front. So rotating and holding shift to snap to that front angle. I'm gonna bring in the gizmo. I'm gonna click on the location and I'm just going to flatten this in the, in the y-axis. Just a very simple, quick thing that you can do. Hold and then hold control, click and drag to remove that. All right, so that's it. We now have something going. It's gonna make more sense in just a second, but let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other piece. So let's bring in the second one. But since I already showed you how to extrude these edges, I wanna show you something else. So I'm gonna show you a different action which has to do with the inset of the polygons. So I'm gonna choose the polygon menu, and then we're gonna go to inset. And the inset, we can choose a bunch of different things. So in my case, let me just show you something else. We have two different polygons. We have the yellow or kind of like green one, and then we have the purple one. Now we can choose and tag all of them. That's pretty easy because we have just a few polygons. But if you have multiple polygons or you have an area that is kind of like hard to choose, you can just tell ZBrush, hey, I wanna inset absolutely everything that is visible. So, or in this model. So I'm gonna tap again on the polygon, go to inset, and instead of choosing a single poly as my target, I'm gonna go for all polygons. So absolutely every single polygons, regardless of what color and what ID they have, right? So that's the really important thing to keep in mind when you're working with the ZModeler, that once you choose the action, you need to choose the target as well. And then you also have modifiers here at the bottom, but those are kind of like adjusting things. The main ones are the action and the target. Okay, so now I'm gonna click and drag and push this in. So you see it is insetting absolutely everything. Before I do that, actually, I'm gonna get out of solo mode so that I can roughly see the thickness that I did before. So I'm just gonna try to match that as best as I can. Something like this is fine. All right. Now I wanna also be able to, let's rotate around. I wanna be able to, let's say, sew this part together in a way, or like if I were to recreate this very closely to reality, then I will have thickness in both of those things, and then this section right here, it will be sewed together. So let's bring in the gizmo and make sure that is right in the center. If it is not, you can turn off symmetry and click on the location icon, but in this case it is. And I'm just gonna use this to scale this roughly like so, and then a little bit like that. So that is going to create, also, let me turn on double. That is gonna create that sort of lip and wrap around. Don't worry, this is gonna make a bit more sense in just a second. So those are the first thing. So let's go into solo mode just to show you is the kind of like the inverted U shape, right? That I use the inset. And then for the other one, go into solo mode, we just have the outer area like that. All right, so the next thing is to add a little bit more geometry because this is not gonna be enough when we subdivide it or when we do the dynamic subdivision. So to add more geometry or more cuts in a way, we can go to the edge and we can choose a different edge action. So I'm gonna click on insert, and this allows me to choose how many things I wanna insert, a single edge loop or multiple ones. In my case, a single one is more than enough, but you can choose multiple ones. So I wanna click in here, in the center, and that is just going to add one loop in there. Then let's add one here at the bottom, and I'm gonna click to add one around there. Doesn't have to be precise. I mean, you can be more precise. In fact, if you wanna put it right in the middle of something, I'm just gonna give you another tip. Let's undo that. You can actually go to multi-edge loop. This is going to allow you to click and drag to create multiple, right? But the cool thing about the multiple insert loop is that if you click once, you're only gonna add one edge loop, and it's gonna be right in the middle of the section. So if you wanna be very precise, let's undo that. You can click, do one, and one, right? That's it. The only caveat is that, as you can see, everything else is now a single poly loop or a single polygroup. Again, that's not a big deal. We can deal with that very, very easily. In fact, let's just leave it like this, and I can show you one more cool thing. All right, so now that I have this, I'm gonna go to the tool palette. I'm gonna open up geometry, and I'm gonna go to Dynamic Subdivision. So in Dynamic Subdivision, if I turn this on, this is what is gonna give us the nice sort of smooth look, but we can improve this a bit more. So let's bring this in. I'm gonna take the subdivision and I'm gonna set it to 4 so it is nice and smooth. And the next thing I want to do is add a dynamic thickness. So right now, this is a single-sided mesh, obviously. But if I bring in the thickness, yeah, on this here where it says dynamic thickness, I'm going to push this, not too much, something like that. I mean, we can, the cool thing about this is that it's dynamic, so we can go back and change it as many times as we want to. The other thing is that you'll notice this is pretty sharp. I'm going to turn off polyframe just for a second. You see, this is very smooth, but the edges are pretty sharp. So if you want to change that, you can also turn off this pause subdivide switch, and that makes everything very, very smooth, right? So I'm going to leave it like this just because I want to be able to show you more things. So the first one is that we can sharpen things up with another, let me turn on polyframe again, with another loop. So if I toggle off dynamic, by the way, so I don't go back and forth into that menu, I also have dynamic subdivision in my custom menu 1. So I can do this, basically toggle this on and off. So I'm going to toggle it off. I'm going to use the edge, and I'm going to click insert single edge loop. I'm going to click at the top, and I'm going to drag it very close to the top, something like that. So what this is going to do is going to tell ZBrush that even though we want a dynamic subdivision, when ZBrush subdivides the top bit, or like this top edge, it's going to be pretty sharp because we have more points in there. So let's test that theory. There we go. So you see it's a bit sharper in here. So we could do the same thing if we want to, even with dynamic enable. So we can click and drag to sharpen this up and all of that. But I actually want to show you something a bit more interesting, which is using creasing. So I'm going to click on the edge again, on the edge tool, and I'm going to go for crease, which should be here under the topology. And again, this green area is allowing us to modify the topology, not necessarily change the model, but well, in a way it's kind of doing it, but I'm going to just choose crease. And you can choose between creasing a single edge, an entire edge loop, which is what I want to do, partial or polyloop. The difference between, let's say, edge loop complete and partial is that the edge loop complete is going to find an entire loop, whereas the partial, as soon as it finds a, let's say, a point that has more than one connection, or sorry, more than two connections, is going to stop in there. So let's leave it as it is. And I'm also going to turn off dynamic so that it's clear. And I'm going to click on this. This is going to be very hard to see, but I'll try my best. So I'm going to click. Yeah, hopefully you can see, especially because this is a blue polygroup, but there is a blue line. No, it's really hard to see, but there is a blue line going all across that. And the only way to see it really is if I enable dynamic. So you see it has a bit of a dotted line. Hopefully you can see that. And that makes this whole edge really, really sharp. And I can do the same thing with the edge inside it. So let's toggle dynamic, and I'm going to tap in here, and you can see it a little bit better there. Let's enable dynamic again. And now we have something a little bit more interesting, right? You could do the same thing for the top if you wanted to. So you could tap on the edge and get that going. So you could do that if you want. I think, this is fine. And the last thing I want to show you in terms of dynamic subdivision is that you can change the offset. So let's get closer here. And in the dynamic palette, we have this offset that currently is set to 0. So if you push this in, it's going to look at the center point of this thickness, and it's going to push that inside. If you push it all the way to 100, it's going to push it outside. So essentially, you have kind of like, let me switch back in here. This is an important concept, and hopefully you're going to be able to see that. It's a little bit of overexposed. Maybe if I do it like this. Yeah, so if I open this up and I have this to 0, so imagine that there is a center line right here, right? If I push this to 100, it's going to take, now the center line is going to be in here. And if I push it to -100, now the center line is going to be here. Or like not the center line, where the thickness is being created. So I'm going to push this all the way to 100. All right. And that's it. And actually, maybe I don't like the sharpness of this. So I'm going to show you another way of changing this. So I don't like the sharpness of the inside. So I'm going to hold the Alt key and tag this edge loop. There we go. So that's a little bit nicer. And instead, what we can do is add an additional line in there. But we'll do that after. Let's go ahead and move a little bit faster now that you know some of the basics. I'm going to get out of solo mode, select the other one, go into solo mode again, and I'm going to do the same thing. So actually, let's see both models so that we can match a little bit the thickness. Let's bring in the tool, go to Dynamic Subdivision, turn that on, and I'm going to use the same subdivision, so 4 levels of subdivision, and let's go to the thickness, and I'm going to push this up. I mean, we can type exactly the same value, to be honest. That'll be easier. So we have in thickness 0.0098. Let's do the same here. So 0.0098. It's going to be exactly the same thickness. And I'm also going to click on post subdivide. So it does it after applying the subdivision. And that's it. We can go ahead and play with this now. So let's turn off dynamic. I'm going to go to the edge. I already have the creasing, but just double checking. And I'm going to click to make the entire edge of this shape creased and then bring in dynamic. So it is pretty solid. And now I'm going to add some polyloops so that we can match this shape a little bit. So let's go to the edge, go to insert and single edge loop. That's fine. Click and drag. I'm just going to bring this closer. Same thing here. So kind of like the same thing that I did with the other one, but I'm just going to do it a little bit more loosely than before. There we go. And for the front, maybe we can just add one here and another one in there. And now we can go ahead and rely on some of the masking techniques with the gizmo so that we can, move this around and make sure that it is matching. So let's switch to a different material. I'm gonna go to my favorite. This is just a simple basic material. I'm gonna turn off polyframe just for a second. So what I need to do is bring in my gizmo, hold the shift key while I'm rotating, so I know for a fact that this is on the side view. I'm gonna scale it in the Z axis so that we have enough gap here on the left hand side, like so. And now I'm gonna go ahead and mask some areas. So I'm gonna hold Control, click, and actually let me just go ahead and show you from here so it's a little bit easier the action that I'm doing. So I'm gonna hold Control and I'm gonna click, sorry, no, this is Alt, Control, click and drag like so. So in reality, if I go to dynamic, I'm just masking out the front face in here. And that way I can hold Control, click, and invert that, and I can push just this bit and I scale it like so. So that's what I'm gonna do, but I wanna do it based on the dynamic subdivision so that I can really see what is happening. So let's enable dynamic. I have it in my menu already. It's a little bit easier. And rotate around. And while I rotate, I hold the shift key again, and I can push this forward a bit. Maybe I can center it. And then I'm gonna scale this in the y-axis. So let me switch back to this mode, invert that. Undo that. I'm gonna do it like so, and then push this up. So this is kind of like giving me that lip that I'm looking for. There we go. Like I said, you can totally decide if you want to make it a thicker pouch or a thinner one. It's totally up to you. It's just about the blocking, really. So that's it. I'm going to hold Control, click, and drag. And now we have the basics of our pouch ready to go. Now, the cool thing is that all of this is dynamic, so we still have a very simple blockout. Let me turn on polyframe, right? We essentially have this, just a couple of like single-sided meshes, and we have dynamic. That's why it looks cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is create a little bit of a strap that goes around, and then we're going to bring in the buckle to connect it. And that's going to show you a couple more things about the ZModeler. So I'm going to go ahead and take some parts of this model that I already have, and I don't want to create something else. And this also allows me to match the surface with the strap, and it's going to be pretty easy. Let's actually turn off dynamic for a second, go into solo mode, and I'm going to tag some polygons. So I'm going to use the Alt key, and I'm going to tag maybe these polygons, and also rotate around, hold the Alt key, tag these polygons. Oh, let's use all of these ones. I think that'll be fine. Okay, so now I can use a really cool tool in the ZModeler, which is the QMesh. So I'm going to click on the polygons because that's what I want to affect. And I'm going to choose this QMesh. So this QMesh has a couple of really cool, easy ways of working with. And that's why the Q stands for, I think, is a quick mesh. And I'm going to leave the single polygon on because, again, it doesn't really matter. I just tagged all the polygons. So anything that I do works in whatever I tag. Now, with anything else, if I just click and drag, it's going to extrude things. All right. Don't worry, I'll show you this from the camera perspective in a second. If I click and drag, and then while I'm dragging, I press the shift key, I'm gonna just move those polygons that I tagged in based on the normal, right? Let me undo that. And if I click and drag and I hold the Control key, I'm gonna extract them based on their normal as well. So this is exactly what I wanna do. Let me undo that, and I'm gonna show you from a different angle, just so that we are clear about what I'm doing. So again, if I click with nothing else, clicking and dragging, it just basically does the same thing as extrude in a way. Let's undo that. If I click and drag and then hold the shift key, then it's going to move those polygons. So undo that. And if I click and drag and then hold the control key, it's going to extract it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do something like this. There we go. So it's very close, but it is extracted, although you can see. Let's actually move back to the video. So it is extracted in there. All right. So the reason I want to do that is because this is going to become one of my straps, and because I want to show you more related things to the ZModeler. Now, obviously, in ZBrush, you can do things in multiple ways. You could actually duplicate the entire model and then delete the edges on the both sides and then just have the same thing. But again, the focus of this video is on the ZModeler. So the next thing I want to do, which is pretty cool, is to select the polygon, and then I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom where it says selection. So I'm going to click on mask, right? So mask is very obvious. It's going to mask whatever polygon I tag. So this allows us to mask out a specific polygroup. So I'm going to find in the target exactly the one that I want, which is this polygroup all. So this one right here. So polygroup all, you see, has like a little folder icon. That's going to mask out anything that has the same polygroup. In this case, if I turn this off, it's just this blue color. So you'll see if I tap once, automatically it masks this whole thing. Now, if I undo that and select the green polygroup, it's going to mask out those points that have that color. So it is super handy. I'm going to click and mask all of those things. And now that I have this mask, we can use another tool in ZBrush. So I'm going to tap the tool. I'm going to go to Subtool, and I'm going to go to Split. And in the Split section, I have this Split on Mask Points, this one right here, right below my selection blue dot. So I'm going to click on Split on Mask Points. Great. So now we have 3 subtools, and this strap, let's say that we extracted from that original mesh, is in here. All right, now that you know that the tools and what I've used, I'm going to repeat the process for this bottom part. So let's toggle off dynamic, and I'm going to be a little bit faster now, holding the Alt key just to tag these polygons. Click and drag, hold control. Whoops. Let's first do things with the QMesh. So click and drag, hold control, and that extract this part. And this is another very important thing. Sometimes if you have something like this, it's going to create that extract based on those points, but not in all cases. So that depends on how many polygroups you actually have in the mesh. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to click and drag to extract. And then without letting go of the click, I'm going to tap the Alt key. Every time that I tap Alt, it's going to change to a different polygroup ID. So now that I know this is a different color, then I can hold control and then I can move this closer. Perfect. Let's go back to the selection, go into mask, polygroup all, click once, then go to split and split on mask. So all of these actions is something that I also have in my custom menu. So I have it here at the bottom. Oops, let me, you see it here. It is split on mask point. So that is something that I use all the time. Now, another really cool thing about this is that because I duplicated or basically extracted a mesh from the ones that I already had with Dynamic Subdivision, it would inherit those settings. So let's bring in Dynamic. And you see it has Dynamic already applied to it. The same thing with this one, Dynamic, and they should match when I enable Dynamic for the rest. Right? So this is working pretty well. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the straps are sharp enough. So let's select those. And another thing that you can do if you don't want to rely on the edge modeler, even though this is the focus of this video, is to use the creasing tools here. So I'm going to go to the geometry, and in the geometry, you have a section called crease, and we can just click on crease, and it's going to crease absolutely all of those points. That's probably not what you want. What you might want is the crease polygroup. And if I do that, it's going to crease the edges of that polygroup. So let's do the same thing. Again, that's another tool that I have in my custom UI, crease polygroups, and that's it. All right, perfect. All right, so now that we have this, I'm actually gonna go into solo mode because I think we need to push this forward a bit because it's a little bit too embedded. So let's go to the Dynamic Subdivision, make sure that our offset, which is Dynamic, sorry, not that one, Dynamic Subdivision, let's make sure that our offset is set to 100, so it is. So if you go to 100 and you still don't have that sort of placement that you want, the next thing you can do, the next thing you can do is utilize that QMesh. That's why it's so powerful. So let's select the polygon. Let's go to QMesh, right? So just as a quick recap, if I click and drag, it's going to extrude. But if I hold the shift key, it's going to push those polygons like so. So I just need to make sure that I use this in all polygons. so that there is no mistake. And let's do that. So click and drag. I'm going to hold the shift key so I can move those away. So I'm going to push that to around there. That's cool. And let's do the same thing in here. Shift and move those. So now this strap is roughly the same thickness as the rest, which I don't want necessarily. So I want to change that a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to do it based on the other object that I'm going to bring, which is that buckle. All right, so full disclaimer here. The buckle is something that I did in the ZBrush for desktop, but it can totally be done in the iPad. It's just that I already had it. And in order to save some time, I'm just going to use a tool that I already built, and I'm going to share it with you as part of the resources so you can also do the same thing. So with that said, let's go back in here, and I'm going to show you how you can import that. So if you download it and save it into your iPad, all you need to do is click on this button, which is to import. And in this case, you have different options. You can import textures, models, alphas, all of that good stuff. I'm going to click on 3D model. The format, I'm going to leave it as OBJ because that's how I exported my file. Click on select file, and I have a bunch here. I'm going to choose buckle. That's the one. All right, so now that it's selected, I'm going to leave everything as default. Click on import, and there we go. So now we have a tool that has this. Again, this is something super, super simple. You can totally achieve the same sort of stuff that I have here with the ZModeler in iPad. And the idea with this video is to show you that you can do the same thing for anything really. It's just about the tools, not the actual object. All right. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and copy this. So I'm going to bring in my tool palette. I'm going to go to the three dots here. I'm going to click on copy. And now I'm going to click on the tool thumbnail, go back to our working file. And in here, I'm going to go to the three dots and paste. So here is my buckle. Let's actually move it down a bit. I'm just going to tap and hold. All right. So it is just at the bottom. And let's go ahead and bring in the gizmo. And I'm going to push this forward and scale it down. So this is going to determine almost the scale of this pouch. So it could be a tiny pouch or a pretty thick one. So if I go for something like this, in terms of the proportions, it's going to make the pouch feel like it's really, really tiny. Whereas if I go for something like this, it's going to feel like it's almost like a backpack. So you need to find a good balance. So I think I'm going to go for something like this. And I'm not going to make this straight. I'm actually going to rotate it slightly so that it kind of like makes sense to have it with the with this sort of lid on top. So let's move it a bit smaller actually. All right. So this is just about placement. There's nothing weird going on. And now what I want to do is actually merge the top bit of my strap and the bottom bit so that I can manipulate them both at the same time. So let's go to the tool or the subtool palette. And I'm going to take this one, put it right at the bottom, and this one right at the bottom. So now I can go to the subtool menu, and I'm going to go to merge, and I'm going to click on merge down. Click OK. And that's it. We now have these two pieces of the strap on their own. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the gizmo. So let's get out of solo again. Bring in the gizmo. I'm going to turn off symmetry so that I can center it by clicking on the location icon. And I'm going to scale this like so, roughly to match what I have here. All right. The next thing I want to do is make sure that the thickness matches this a little bit better. So I'm going to bring in my thickness and I'm going to reduce that something. It doesn't have to be perfect again. Something like that. I think maybe a tiny bit more. Perfect. So that is good. And the other thing, as you notice, as I changed that thickness, it sort of like gave me a little gap. So you can use the same technique as we used before with the QMesh and then just press the shift key. Otherwise, you can also use the offset now. So you can push the offset to fine tune it. Great. The other thing I want to do, probably, let's go into solo mode, is I'm gonna mask out these points, invert that mask and bring in the gizmo. I just want to push them closer, just because, yeah, something like that. All right, let's clear that mask. Perfect. So the next thing I need to do is I need to convert this dynamic subdivision into actual geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my dynamic palette, which is this one right here. I'm going to click apply. So before I hit apply, I'm actually going to take the subdivision level and I'm going to set it to 0 so that I don't apply any subdivision. It's just the thickness. So let's click apply. And all I've done is just apply the thickness, nothing else, right? Which is pretty cool. Now you'll notice that because I moved back from the subdivision level with the dynamic subdivision, this section right here is pretty sharp. So the only reason I did that, or I left it like this, is because I want to show you something else. So if I open up my edge menu here, we can go to the bevel So I want to click on Bevel, Edge Loop Complete, and I can click on this and I can bevel this, right? So this is going to be, or it's going to allow me to create a more of a rounded shape in here, and I'll do the same thing for the back. And potentially I could do the same thing here, although we don't really need it. Let's go into solo mode, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Something like that. Go back. All right. So that is just another tool that you have available to you in the ZModeler. All right. So essentially I wanna connect this with the back of the buckle and the same thing here. This top bit, I wanna connect it with the top of the buckle. So for that, I need to align the geometry. So I'm gonna go into solo mode and I'm gonna hide the sections that I don't need. So I'm gonna hold Control and Shift to access my selection brushes. You'll see them at the top. And I'm gonna tap on the second one, which is the lasso. So Control and Shift to isolate this. Then before I let go of the click, I'm gonna hold the Alt key to hide this. Perfect. And I'll do the same thing here. Click and drag, hold the Alt key to delete those. To hide them. And now that I've hid them, I'm gonna go to the geometry. I think I already showed you this, but anyway, I'll do it again. Geometry, modify topology. So that modified topology is within the geometry palette, and then click on delete hidden. So that is going to delete anything that has been hidden. It's something that I use a lot as well, and I have it here in the first menu of my custom UI. So that's a very important one. All right, cool. So because we deleted this one, now this geometry is open, right? Now let's go ahead and select the buckle, and we essentially need to do the same thing. So I'm gonna use a couple of things just to separate this a little bit more, because right now they're like too close. They're separate geometry, but I wanna be able to see it a bit better. So I'm gonna hold Control and Shift and click on the polygroup at the back just to isolate it. Then I'm gonna mask this out, holding Control and click on the canvas. Then Control and Shift and click again to bring everything. And let's hold Control and click to invert that mask. And I can bring in the gizmo now, center it, and I'm just going to move that slightly to the back. All right, we can adjust this later, but I wanna do the same thing in here. So let me just repeat that in case you're new to this sort of process in ZBrush. Sometimes it becomes like second nature, but I know it's not it might sound like a bunch of commands, but it's actually really simple. So Control and Shift, you see I'm pressing on this little radial menu, Control and Shift. Then I'm gonna click once on this polygroup, not that one, the yellow one, that's it. Then to mask the entire thing, you can hold Control, click and drag and mask the whole thing, or let me undo that. You can hold Control and click once. If you do that, it's just going to mask everything that is visible. So now I can hold Control and Shift to bring back everything by tapping once on the canvas. And then I'm gonna invert the entire mask. So hold Control and click once in the canvas. So those are commands that if you get used to them, it's gonna be very, very easy to work with in ZBrush. So let's bring in the gizmo and center it to this area. And also, by the way, if you press the Alt key or just click on this lock icon, it allows you to move the pivot or of the gizmo freely. So I'm gonna move this like so. All right, that's it. Let's hold Control, click and drag to unmask that. Let's bring in the rest of the model. So as you can see, this area is the one that I wanna connect. So I'm gonna try to do it from this angle. So Control and Shift to bring in my selection tools. Again, I'm gonna choose the select lasso, and let's move this away a little bit. Control and Shift. I'm gonna hide this section right here, hold the Alt key. There we go. So that is hidden. And this one, I'll probably get away with just holding Control and Shift and hide only this bit. Alt, there we go. All right. So again, that's an action that I already have in my UI. So I can just click on delete hidden. Otherwise, you can go to geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. That's it. Perfect. So now we have this geometry that is open. I'm also going to give it the double in the display settings. I'm going to solo mode. You see that section right there is open. So that's perfect because we're going to be able to bridge those two. But in order to do that, we need to combine them into a single mesh. So let's go ahead and bring in the subtool palette. So we have this strap, and then we have the buckle. So on the buckle, I'm going to go to the subtool palette, go to merge and merge down. Click OK. And there we go. So now we have this in the same subtool, which is great. Now, the only thing that we need to do is connect them. But this is another thing that I wanted to show you. So you'll notice that the amount of points that I have here on the strap, let's actually reduce the brush size quickly. So hopefully you can see it basically doesn't match what is on this one. So you have in the strap, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, right? And in this one, in the other hole, you have more than 6. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. So we need to match them. And it is very simple. All we need to do is add a couple of loops. So we can go to the edge menu and we can use the bevel. So if I go to the bevel, I can just click on this one and do this, but it's gonna get to a certain point that is going to stop, and then I'll have to slide them. So that's one way of doing it. The other way would be to create more edge loops and then delete a few. And just for the sake of demo and showing you more tools, I'm just gonna do that, but it's probably not the most efficient one. So I'm gonna go to the edge again. Sorry, let me undo that. So this is what we had before, right? I'm gonna go to edge and I'm gonna go to insert. I'm gonna go for single edge, and because I can enable symmetry, I can click and drag and create it. So I'm gonna try to match what I have in the buckle. And remember, this goes all around. So the one at the bottom, sorry, this one doesn't go all around. So I'm just gonna do that, the same thing here, roughly the same. And of course, we have this one right in the middle. So we could either add one right in the middle here for the buckle, which I think is better, or we can remove this one. So just for the sake of demo again, I'm not saying this is the best way of going about it. It's probably better to just have more geometry in there. If you want to delete an entire edge loop, you can go to the edge menu, go to delete, and select edge loop complete. So now I'm going to click, and it's going to delete that entire edge loop. We can add more later on. Perfect, but this is still not connected, right? So in order to connect, and I'll probably need to switch cameras as well, I need to show you a couple of things. So the connection happens from the edges. So I'm gonna select the edge menu, and I'm gonna go to bridge. So bridge is the one that allows us to connect a couple of edges or a couple of holes. So that's what I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna choose 2 holes. All right. So now I'm gonna click on, let me actually switch to the camera. So I'm gonna click on this edge right here first, and then I'm gonna click on this one right here. So it's gonna merge, or sorry, bridge these two. So let's see, I'm gonna do it in this camera, and then I'm gonna switch to the other one. So I'm gonna tap once and then click here. Undo that because sometimes it's tricky to select it, and I will show you something else if this keeps happening. So let's do it again. So click on this edge, there we go. So now we've bridged those two. The reason I wanted to show you this in this camera is because you see, even though I was trying to be very precise, sometimes it's really hard to get the right thing. So I'll show you another technique, which is super, super handy, and I'll do it in here. So you can actually lock anything that you don't want to use. So in my case, I only want to be able to select the edges. And if I accidentally click on the polygon, it's just going to do that, and that's not what I want. So you can go to the polygon one and tell ZBrush, hey, I'm going to deal with an area that is kind of like hard to choose the edge. So I don't want you to deal or affect any of my polygons. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and select do nothing. So let me just show you how that looks like. Here we go. And it just basically says do nothing. All right. So now that I told ZBrush that I don't want to do anything with the polygons, I'll do the same thing with the points just in case. All the way to the bottom, do nothing. So now this tool is only going to allow me to bridge points. So if I click on this, it's not going to do anything. Right? I'm tapping on this one, it's not doing anything. So I'm gonna click on this edge and then on the second one. And if for some reason you get in an error or it doesn't happen, in this case it did it, but let's actually undo that because I think there's gonna be an error here. I forgot to mention that this bridge works actually with symmetry, but we don't wanna do 2 kind of like connections in one go. So I'm gonna turn off symmetry. That's kind of like the main thing. I'm gonna click and tap, and this is the other thing. I haven't let go of my click. I can actually go left and right, and you can change that sort of curvature, and up and down to change the amount of points. So you can make something really nice and smooth. So let's do it again. Let's tap on this point. Sorry, I think I did an undo. It becomes a little bit tricky. There we go. All right. I'll just do the same. I was trying to do a few more loops there, but I think it's fine. If it is a little bit tricky, you can do it from a larger edge. It's okay. Oh, you know what? I forgot. This is the problem. I forgot to delete this edge. So let's do, or maybe I didn't forget, but I did an undo and it just didn't work. So let's do it again. All right. So now I delete those, and that should match the amount of edges now. So let's click on this one here at the top and this one at the bottom. All right. Finally. So a bit of a workaround, but yeah, I just wanted to show you those tools. So now we have something pretty decent. We have the strap and we have the pouch. Now, if I go in here and let's go to enable dynamic, right? We have nice, I'm going to turn off the polyframe just for a second. We have this nice subdivision, but we have all of this creasing that I don't want to have. So instead of, you'll see it here. So we have some areas that are creased. In fact, let's turn this on. We have this area that is creased and all of these ones are not. So we can go to the tool palette, go to the geometry, go to the crease section, and I'm going to click on crease all. So that is going to remove any creasing. And these bottom pieces, or like the end of this strap, is a little bit too stretched. So I'm just going to add a couple of inserts. So I'm going to go insert, sorry, not insert, insert a single edge loop, click and drag, and then another one here, click and drag. Perfect. Now let's bring in the rest to see how everything is looking. And that looks pretty decent. I mean, the little strap that is hanging, that's fine. I think it adds character to it. And just to wrap it up, let's go ahead and add some more details to these pouches so that it looks a bit more interesting. So what I can do is I'm going to select the lid. I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to call it the lid from now on. So I'm going to choose the lid. I'm going to go to the Dynamic Subdivision and I'm going to open that up. And again, the same thing that I did with the strap, I'm going to reduce the amount of subdivision because I don't want to deal with that just yet. And I'm going to apply the thickness. So the only thing that I'm going to, let's say, bake into this model is the thickness, nothing else. All right. So now I'm going to do a couple of things that might change how this strap sort of like wraps around it, but it's okay. I want to do it anyway, just to show you something else. So I'm going to go into solo mode here, and I want to be able to clean up some of these polygroups with another tool. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to have separate polygroups for the edges so that I can extrude those. So it's just another tool. I'm going to go to the polygon here. I'm going to find the tool that says Polygroup, which should be here on the selection. So I'm going to click on Polygroup, and I'm going to leave the target as single poly just because I'm going to be able to tag things. So I'm going to hold the Alt key, and with symmetry, I'm going to tag these polygons. Let's go around as well. So I basically tag those polygons, and you see that accidentally these polygons inside also got tagged. So the cool thing is that I can hold the Alt key and I can tag those, and it basically untags them. All right. So now that I've tagged this, I can click once just to add a single polygroup. And if I press the Alt key before I let go of my tab, I can cycle between different colors, right? And remember, the action that I choose is the polygroup. So that's why I only choose how to assign, or basically the points or the polygons that I want to assign to. Let's do the same thing here for the inside. So holding the Alt key, tagging all of these. There we go. And I'm going to click once, hold the Alt key to add a different polygroup. That's it. All right. So now that we have this, we can actually go ahead and change the polygon, go for extrude, or actually let's do QMesh. And this time I'm going to go for polygroup. So polygroup all, right? That's the target. And that's the reason why I tag this for different colors, so that I can click and create this thickness like so, or like this, right? So I'm going to tap the green one and add a tiny bit of thickness there, not too much. All right, something like this. You'll see it's almost like double the thickness that I had before, kind of. All right, so obviously that adds a few more points. So let's go ahead and check the dynamic subdivision. And obviously we don't need thickness anymore, but we do need subdivisions just to see how it interacts with that strap. Oh, that's not too bad. All right. And of course, this inner side, you know what we can do? We can just go ahead and assign a crease. So let's do that. And I know this tutorial is getting a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure that everything is covered. So let's do that. I'm gonna turn off dynamic. I'm gonna select the edge. I'm gonna choose creasing, edge loop complete, and I'm gonna go ahead and tag this edge right here. So basically, the difference between the blue one and the pink one or red one, just to see how that looks. Yeah, not too bad. Actually, I could just hold the Alt key and turn this off so that it's a bit softer. So I just reduce or remove the sharpness of that edge, and maybe the same thing here. Let's try that. It's a little bit simpler. It's a little bit too soft. I'll show you another technique. So let's just add sharpness to those edges again, and maybe to this one. Oops. So the difference between the blue and the green one as well. And that way we have something that looks a little bit sharper. Don't worry, this is gonna look a little bit better in just a second. And another thing that I noticed, which I didn't notice before, probably because of the non-proportional edit that we did with the Gizmo, is that this thickness at the bottom is quite different from the sides. So again, let's get out of dynamic so that we can see what we're doing. And I'm just going to select those points in there. Oh, I'm losing battery already. So I just mask those points in there. I'm gonna invert the mask, bring in the gizmo, and I'm gonna push those up. In fact, let's bring in the dynamic so we can see what we're doing. So I'm just gonna try to match that thickness a little bit better. There we go. All right, clear that mask. And I'm also going to sharpen up or use the crease to sharpen this edge right here. All right, I'm gonna turn off Dynamic Subdivision. Otherwise, it's gonna be pretty hard to see what I'm doing. And then I think I did an extra edge. There we go. All right, let's bring back everything. And the next thing I want to do is I want to create a bit of a gap in between so that it feels a bit sturdy. So I want to take this polygroup. Let's go ahead and turn off dynamic. I want to hold Control and Shift, and this is something else that you can do. It's pretty easy. First, sorry, just a couple of things that I noticed. So I'm going to hold the Alt key to untag this edge loop as a crease. And what I'll do instead is I'm going to take the polygroup that is right in the middle, and I'm going to give it a different color. So this is an extra technique. Doesn't have anything to do with the ZModeler, but you can do it with the selection tool. So I'm going to hold Control and Shift to access my lasso. And if you hold Control and Shift and click on an edge like so, you'll see it's going to select the entire edge loop. So that has nothing to do with the edge with the ZModeler. It's more about the selection tools. So now I can invert that selection, and I do have a custom tool in my UI to do auto groups. So that just creates a different polygroup. And now that I have a different polygroup, I can also use something like extrude or the one that currently have selected, which is QMesh. So when I click and drag, push this in just slightly, hold the Alt key to add a different polygroup. There we go. And the reason I want to show you this is because even though it's a little bit thicker than what I would like to, you will be able to kind of like close the gap using the same QMesh. So you'll see what I mean. Remember what we did before, that if you hold the Shift key when you're pushing with the QMesh, it will actually move the polygons along the normals. That's the same thing that you can do here. So you can click and tap just to extrude, but if I hold the Shift key, it's going to move them based on that normal. So I'm going to push them like so, and potentially get closer here. And with the crease tool, I'm going to crease the inside. Oops, I don't want to touch the polygon, so let's go ahead and set this to do nothing. So edge, oops. I don't know if it's going to do it properly. Let's see how this looks actually before I overdo it with the creasing. So let's enable dynamic. Oh yeah, it's not too bad. I think that looks better. Cool. So we have that nice sort of like thick area here for this pouch. What we can do though is crease those outer edges as well. So let's once again turn this off. Let me double check. Edge loop complete. Yeah, it's fine. I'm just doing an extra edge loop. I don't know why. So let's go into solo mode. Let's try from here. I'm going to switch to edge loop partial, see if that works better. Nope. Let's try edge loop. It shouldn't pick that up, but it's doing it anyway. So I'm testing. There we go. All right. So that's better. So I just use the polyloop so that it does it based on the blue polyloops that we have here. All right, cool. So now we have all of these that we need. We might want to actually change how these wrap, so like the curvature of this, but that is something that we can do with the masking tool. So I'll use the gizmo. So in order to do that, I'm going to hold Control and mask this section, invert that mask, bring in the gizmo, center it, and I'm going to push that up like so. Maybe push that forward slightly, so it creates a nice sort of rounded shape. And now we just need to compensate with the strap. So I'll go here, go into solo mode. Same deal, Control click to mask, Control click to invert. Let's bring back everything else, center the unmasked areas. If you have like a rotated gizmo like this and you want to reset it, you can hold the Alt key and hit this rotation reset so that you don't affect the mesh, but you can reset your polygon, your pivot. So I'm going to push this up like so, and I probably need to also mask some other points because this tool has a few more points. So I'm going to mask this. So again, these points here and these points here. Invert that mask and bring back everything. And I'm going to push this forward up as well. There we go. So yeah, depending on which sort of pouch you're working on, you might have to do those tweaks. But in general, I think that is working fine. I want to also sharpen up the back of this as well. So you'll see how the curvature sort of like goes very, very smooth, I want to have something a bit sharper. So we can go with an insert here, single edge loop. And let's go ahead and do it from here. I'm going to click and drag up like so. And we can go ahead and do the same thing here for the strap. There we go. We can potentially mask those. This is kind of like refinement. We already covered the main things with the ZModeler. All right, cool. So just to wrap it up, in order to cover a couple more techniques that I think you're gonna find useful, what I want to do is maybe sharpen up this curvature here in this corner. So let's select that, and I'm gonna use the edge loop. So I have the edge loop selected, the insert edge loop. I'm gonna push that back a little bit. There we go. And also it is kind of like intersecting. So I'm going to bring in the entire, the gizmo, center that, and I'm just going to scale that slightly. There we go. All right. So some tiny minor refinements, but our pouch is complete. Now to wrap everything up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I can get rid of these very sharp edges and have something that feels a bit more organic within the realms of what we're trying to create here. So very simple stuff. I'm going to go to the tool palette. I'm going to select my, let's also enable this so that we know the pouch itself. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce the subdivision level to number 2, something simple like this. I'm going to hit apply, and then I'm going to go to the lead, do the same thing, subdivision level 2, and apply. And we already applied the thickness for the strap, but we can go ahead and apply the subdivision as well. So now we have subdivision level in all of them, and they're all subdivided at level 2. Okay, so that is an essential, part of this process. So now I'm going to go ahead and combine everything together. So this is another cool trick. You can leave this one as it is, and you can save this as a tool, or you can go ahead and merge everything down, and that will create another tool. So this is what I would recommend. Go ahead and save this one as your working tool, so you can come back, maybe save it before you apply any of the subdivision, the dynamic subdivision, so you can tweak those at any point. And then you can go to merge and click on merge visible. So that is going to create a brand new tool. So if you click on the tool thumbnail, that is going to have all the subdivision and everything that we applied. So this is looking pretty good. Now, in order to get rid of that sort of sharpness that we had before, right? Now that we have at least a few more subdivision levels, I'm going to go to the crease tool. So let's go to geometry. Let's go all the way to the creasing tab here. And I'm going to uncrease all. Where are we? Uncrease all. So now we don't have any custom creasing. And now we can bring in the dynamic subdivision once again, just with the subdivision, maybe to level 2. And you will see exactly what that does. Let's turn this off now. So we now have a nice and clean subdivision and a little bit of sharpness around the edges because we applied let's say the crease, we applied that at level 2. Right? Or we got rid of that, and then we just subdividing without any creasing. So we get something that looks really nice and clean. And that wraps up this video. I know it's pretty long. And if you want to actually continue this, what you can do is apply the subdivision. So I'm going to click on apply. So now you literally have the subdivision level. So let's go to here. So we have level 1. This is how we started, or what I showed you at the very beginning, right? So we have level 1, but you can also go to subdivision level 5. And this is where you can have all the fun, right? You can turn this off now, and then you can bring in, I have a custom brush, but I'm just gonna show you very quickly. You can get this brush from the Pablander Academy resource page, and it's basically for drapery. So I'm gonna rotate things around, increase my brush size, and do this type of things. You can potentially subdivide one more time, so have a bit more. So you can create all of these wrinkles on the fly. I'll be very, very cautious about doing this because you don't need to add that many wrinkles. But if you want to, this is kind of like an easy way to add these sort of tension points. So that's kind of like another tutorial. Really, it's just detailing. But the construction of this pouch and the construction of this within the iPad, it's done. And I think this is a pretty good job. Of course, you can adjust things and intersecting here and there, but that's just a matter of like using the move brush really. And of course you can also use other tools like, a stitching curve or something to add a stitching around this area. Just gonna do it briefly here. So you can just go ahead and do all of these just to add a stitching there. That's probably not what you want. And other than that, it's just a matter of like fine tuning things. The last thing I want to show you is that if you go to the lowest subdivision level, and this is the advantage of having subdivisions, and open up or turn on the polyframe, you'll see that this is still, or there's still a bit of a gap in here. So we can still, because we have polygroups, we can still hold Control and Shift, isolate this point, Control, maybe just control these bits right here, bring back everything, invert that control, and select the gizmo, center to the unmasked areas. I'm gonna hold the Alt key to adjust the pivot and push this one back a bit. All right. So that is the same thing that you could do here at the bottom. And of course, you can add a couple of like stitches here, or you can use insert brushes to add kind of like a buckle, or like not a buckle, sorry, a bolt or something like that. And that would be it. And to finalize it, just so that it looks a little bit better than this, you can also go to the tool palette, go to the polygroup in here and click on auto groups. That is going to create polygroups based on the different meshes, and we still have those. And if you want to sculpt on these and add details, of course, you can select them by polygroup. So you can hold Control and Shift and select the lead. We're going to keep calling it lead, Control and Shift, and select that lead, and then isolate that one. Or you can go to the, let's go back in here, go to the buckle and add some damage in there, and so on and so forth. But that is essentially it. And you have the ability to go back. And this is, again, I keep mentioning this, but you have the ability to go back to the lowest subdivision level. So this is going to be your low res mesh. You can export that into Painter and then go into the high subdivision level and export that as your high res mesh and do the baking. So there you have it. ZBrush for iPad is a fantastic tool. It allows you to do pretty much what you have in the desktop. It's just about getting comfortable with the tools, because the UI, I think, is better in the iPad, but it's also very intuitive. So when you get used to it and how the things work, how you bring in those menus and customizing the UI a little bit, it's going to be very, very easy. So if you want to know more about how the UI works and how you customize the UI, I have a series of iPad videos in the YouTube channel that walk you through all of that. It is using kind of like one of the first versions of ZBrush for iPad, but it is still relevant. And also, if you want to, let's say, take this pouch into Substance Painter, I have a bunch of other videos in the channel about Substance Painter that allows you to texture with like fabric and all of those things in Painter. So hopefully this has been of help. I know it's a very long video, but I got a bunch of requests, and it's unfortunately something that I cannot compress into like a 15-minute video if I want to do it as thorough as I try to do with this video. So if you stuck with me all throughout this video, thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate if you subscribe, and it helps the channel quite a bit, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.